This is a 2005 Polaris Scrambler 500. Came in a little bit of a mess. So it's got an electrical problem where it doesn't do anything. When you hit the key, you get nothing. If you have the light switch on, oh yeah, there we go. So you can see that it's sending a little bit of power places, but it doesn't do anything when you try to hit the key. So first thing was to find a proper wiring diagram for this. So I started off with a climber manual, and it turns out it just has the wrong wiring diagram in it, and it sent me down a wild goose chase. So once I found the right wiring diagram, I'll put a better version of this on the screen. But first thing we want to find is our ignition switch, see what's going on there. So what we have is orange power wire coming from the power control module. So we have orange coming up to the ignition switch, and then when you turn it to the on position, that makes connection with the red and black. So I'll test that real quick. All right, so I got set up here for continuity on my orange and red black. See, when I turn this switch on, we get a connection. So that part of the ignition switch is working properly. So the next part is the other half of that ignition switch, which you have a white-red and red-white that get connection when you put it in the start position. So that's these two right here. So I can see they get a good connection when they're in the start position. So the next I had to figure out, basically when that's in the start position, you're sending power to your start solenoid. So one of those has to have power. So I started to trace that back, and it looks like the red-white is the one that should be powered up. And if you trace that back further, that gets power from, so what happens is the orange is the original power. It makes a connection to the red-black. Then that red-black goes up to the switch assembly, and then that has the on-off up there. So when it's in the off position, it doesn't send power. When it's on, it sends power to the red-white splice, and then that red-white splice is the one that makes connection with the white-red and sends to the starter relay. So we're looking for power on our red-white. So let me get a good ground here. And I can see that I've got no power on that red-white, so that's why when making that connection does nothing to the start solenoid. So that leads me to, if I know that I'm getting power on that orange, I'm making the connection to the red-black, the red-black goes up to the switch, I need to check the switch at that red-black and see if it's got power up there. So let's go up to the handlebar switch and see if the red-black has power. I'll get this set up, hold on. Alright, so now I'm up with the switch. I want to see if this red-black has power. And it does. So next would be, if we go off and run, we want to see if we get a connection from our red-black and red-white. That's what should make a connection in the run position. So let me get set up for that. Alright, so now I'm set up for continuity on the red-black and the red-white, and you can see I've got no connection. Doesn't matter if I'm in the off or run. So the problem seems to be this switch not sending power from the red-black to the red-white. That red-white is what powers up, it sends that power to that ignition switch. So if we jump the red-black to the red-white, we'll bypass this switch and then see if the ignition switch starts. So hold on. Alright, so I just used a jumper, and so now I'm just bypassing this kill switch right here. So now I'm sending power to our red-white down here at the ignition switch. So now we can see if things work. There we go. Starts right up. Alright, so all that tracing of wires and power and everywhere just to figure out that we have a bad switch housing up here. So I already ordered a new one. I have it installed, so I'm just going to switch these wires out and make sure that we work. Alright, so now we got the new switch installed here. Let's just make sure everything works like it should. There we go. Alright, so once you get a hold of a proper wiring diagram, It's really just a matter of figuring out where power comes from and where it's going, and our ground signals and power signals. But if you can make sense of a wiring diagram, you can really figure out just about any electrical problem you need. So I hope this helps somebody. Thanks for watching.